Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Challenge podcast. This is the first podcast of the season, preseason time. We are back with a new co-host as well. Alex, nice to see you again for the first time on stream. How are you?
Yeah, Challen, it's been a while. I've been back in the motherland for a few months now from my stint in Korea, so it's good to be back
It's
in
good to
these
be.
bad times of load shedding and water crisis.
Yes, we're having a pretty bad time na- in our city with no water and electricity, but yeah, doesn't mean we can't stop playing the games we like playing, right?
Not at all, yes. So it keeps me going every day.
It's good to be recording with you in the daytime because I think the last time 2 years ago when we first recorded, you would have to record at like 9 p.m. after work, right?
Yeah, wasn't an ideal situation for me because it's maybe 11, 12 is my bedtime, so
The brain stops thinking
yes,
as soon as
exactly.
10 p.m. comes.
Yes.
All right, let's get going. Today we're going to be looking at just a short review of our previous season, what we can remember thereof, if we want to remember anything at all. Then we'll be having a look at some preseason thoughts and topics, results, anything that might come to mind. Then having a look at some stats relating to the teams mainly, and then looking at our current drafts as they are now. We both have two drafts each so far, so we'll have a look at them as we go along.
Still
Uh,
not happy with those drops, but anyway, we can talk about that later.
that's fine. Do you want to talk about them now or later?
No, no, let's end off badly with those drafts. So
All right. In the meantime, then let's just chat about last season. How did you find last season?
I can
Any
say,
positives or negatives?
well, for the first maybe 10 game weeks, I could say a big positive. Like I was consistent, getting over 60 points and hitting the 20k barrier ranking. So after that first maybe wild card at the beginning, everything just went downhill. There seems to be a consistent trend for me throughout the years of playing fantasy. So nothing's ever changed for me.
You do a lot better in the first like 2 months of the season usually.
Yeah.
And it's not because you're not active as a player, like you're active throughout the season, but somehow you just always nosedive after the first wild card.
Yes, maybe it's captaincy choice, or I just mess around with those differentials in the midfield.
Maybe you should just not play the first wild card.
Yeah.
Just don't play it until because this year we have three wild cards, right?
Yes.
So maybe the tactic this year is to just not play the first wild card until
Yeah.
the World Cup finishes, and then wild card after that.
I could. That is the ideal situation, but for me, I just get excited when there's a wild card available. Just change everything, but it just tends to mess up my team even more. So just bear with it.
Agreed. From my point of view, last season wasn't bad. Uh, can't remember my final overall rank, but it wasn't terrible. I finished reasonably, but all the stop start and rescheduled games due to the
Yes.
positive cases and all that kind of
Mm.
stuff really affected me last season in a negative way.
Right.
Uh, I wouldn't say I overthought things. I think I played accidentally around December when they gave us the second free hit. I decided to play one free hit in December in what should have been an amazing game week because I think I was able to get a team with Ronaldo, Kane, Salah, Son, and a few
All the
others up
premiums.
front.
Yes. Yeah.
Bless me, I
Bless
just
you.
sneezed. Um, yeah, so I could get this amazing team plus the big guys at the back, and then of course that happens to be the game week where I think the only person who actually scored points in my team was Salah, and he got an assist. Ronaldo blanked, Kane blanked, everyone blanked. So that ended up being a not a waste, but it could have been a very good result. And then because of that, I basically wasted the free hit. and everyone else
Mm.
had their second free hit later in the season. So they had two free hits and all the other chips. So I was always behind one chip basically. And yeah, what about you? Can you
Yeah,
remember your chip usage?
not really. Just that wild card at the beginning, and I waited until maybe the new year to use the triple captain for those double or triple game weeks. Wouldn't say it went horribly wrong. I mean, actually, yeah, it went terrible. I mean, my captaincy did maybe score one goal in those three games. I think it was Ronaldo.
I was going to ask
Yeah,
because I
that's
don't
when
remember your team.
yeah when United were going through a tremendously appalling week after week performance. So
Yeah, I must say the triple captaincy chip last season for both Leighton and I was amazing. It was the best one I ever had. But for him, he played it in the same week where I played the free hit in December,
okay,
and he of course triple captained Jared Bowen in the week where he scored, I think, 2 goals and 2 assists or something. So I think he got something silly like 74 points from his triple captain,
mm,
which was amazing for him. And then later in the season, I was that one of those lucky few who captained Salah in the double game week. Was it against United?
possibly yes, United and some. I can't remember the other team.
I think he scored was it a hat trick or it was something massive? Like he did hit really well, so I was very happy about that.
I'm guessing the hat trick was against my beloved United.
I think so.
Was it at Old Trafford?
I think it was that game. Oh, I was so happy.
Yeah, me too. To be honest, like
But apart from that, for the rest of the season, it was nice. I liked the introduction of the cup in FPL. That is, uh, not that I did very well. I always do very badly in the cups, but I like the idea
yeah,
of it.
I don't tend to pay much attention to the cups. Whatever happens for me happens. Just luck of the draw, I suppose.
Definitely.
Mm.
All right. Let's move on to preseason then. I haven't
Yes, let's go.
personally. I have not paid much attention to preseason. As soon as FPL finished at the end of last season, it was a long season for me, so I
Yeah,
just switched off entirely. And when the game launched, I auto picked my team, as you'll see later, and I haven't touched it since then. I have been on Twitter, but I've avoided any threads or people's teams or discussions
yeah.
just because
What?
I don't want to think about it yet.
Yes, of course. I
Um,
mean, for me, basically, as I told you off air, I watched the first game of United against Liverpool, and I have to say that I'm happy with what I saw with Ten Hag and his structure. So good things lying ahead, especially with the new recruits or the new Dutch recruits, should I say, and Ericsson. But
who are you
for
most happy with?
preseason, for me, I'm not looking too much into it. It's just for new coaches or new players just to gel well with the structure and all that.
Yeah, from a United perspective, who are you most excited by as a fan,
Yeah,
and then FPL as well?
yeah, I always get excited when there's like a month to go for fantasy. I get get into the site and then I see it's not ready to do your squads yet. So as the days go by, I get more and more tense.
I think your most intriguing potential FPL asset this season is probably Ericsson, right?
Mm.
I can't remember how much you said he was. He's 6.5 or 7.
I think 6.5, which for him in the midfield is a bargain.
Yeah, I think the only thing it just it is definitely a bargain,
Yes,
but it's probably the only thing that you have to worry about is his minutes, right?
yes,
Is he going to start
correct.
every game? Is he going to come off the bench all the time?
I mean, the thing, I don't think he's played any preseason minutes, or maybe he has. I just haven't been watching. But it'll be interesting to see Quizzy. probably with Bruno will be on set piece duty with the free kicks. So I'll see how Bruno's emotions will deal with that situation when it comes to it.
What do you think is, or the glaring question at your club is, what's happening with Ronaldo?
I mean, any situation, if I was him, it's hard because at his age, he's done all that he can and accomplished what he has. Um,
Okay, and we're back. We just had some technical issues there.
yeah,
I
sorry
think we're
about
okay.
that. Yeah,
What?
so we're talking about Ronaldo's situation
Yes.
at United. Um, I think for his age, at I think 37, 38, and the fact that he's been performing like a 20-year-old and scoring 20 plus goals in a season, I can't say we should get rid of him, but if he plays like a manager player role like Giggs did during his later seasons, I wouldn't say no to that. Other than that, I don't know what to say about Ronaldo. He is his own man, and if he wants to leave and do something else, I'm all for it.
So therefore, as a FPL asset, you're not even going to consider him at all.
Probably not, no.
You're just assuming that he's leaving the club.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Looking at, let's say, the bigger teams, Liverpool have lost Mane, but they've signed Nunez
Nunez, yeah.
and a few other randoms, but Nunez is the big one. Are you considering him at all?
I, I still need to watch his minutes or yeah, when he plays throughout the weeks. I'm still not considering him early stages, but we'll see. Maybe during the latter half, definitely.
For sure. I think from my side, same thing. We'll have to see where he fits in or that kind of thing. I think when it comes to the how can I say, the rankings of people who I think are most nailed in the team, it's obviously the likes of Trent, Robertson, Salah. At this stage, I think Diaz will probably be a starter as well. And then it depends on what they want to do. If Firmino's going to be more of a starter again, or Nunez at first. So I think the Community Shield this weekend is going to be important to decide what we're going to start off with.
Yeah, definitely going to pay much attention to that game. For City's premiums as well. I'm sure you were
Yes,
going to mention Holland at a later stage.
yes, we may as well do it now. We're talking about the Community Shield, and yeah, looking at Man City. You just mentioned Haaland. He's already scoring goals in preseason, guaranteed in your
Goals,
team.
I mean, just a goal against Bayern, a single goal, but yes.
Okay, well, I saw one goal. It's a good start.
Yeah.
You getting him?
Um, like I said before with Nunes, I'll have to see because there's so many forward premiums to choose from, and you can't have them all. So it'll have to be one or the other, unless you have Kane and Holland and have no Salah in the midfield, which will probably an interesting um, fantasy season if you don't have Salah.
It would
Would be
definitely,
fun to play around with that, but
yeah.
ideally you don't.
It's something to look at, I guess, if you
Yeah,
don't like Salah and you just go Kane, Holland, Son.
yeah,
I don't know, yeah, something like that. But it's risky because there's no easy way to get Salah in.
no,
But yeah, from a City perspective, it's tough. Do you go with Haaland, who hasn't played in the Premier League, based purely on his reputation everywhere else, and he has played
yeah,
in leagues that are generally easier to score in for him? Or do you go with someone like a Kane, who's tried and tested in the
track
Premier
list,
League,
yeah.
older slightly, but again, him, as we've seen again in preseason, we may as well move on to them. In
Mm.
preseason, Kane and Son have been once again ripping it up.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to go against the stats.
How many
Having that
premiums?
combination, it's deadly.
How many premiums are you gonna go for? Two or three?
That depends.
No,
Does he count as a premium forward?
I would consider him mid price or the top of that area.
Yeah. So ideally, yeah. Okay. So in defense, maybe two premiums, definite. Midfield, one Salah, Son, or De Bruyne, and then the forwards two. So 4 or 5 premiums in the team, and then the rest maybe between the range of 7 to 9, and then the fodder at 4, 4.5 to make up the bench.
Fair enough. Let's have
And for you?
premiums. Okay, usually I tend to go with two, but it depends on the pricing. Like this season now, as we know, I used to be able to get, let's say, Salah and Kane, and then afford a Son as well, who was 9 last season. But now we
Yeah.
have Son in the premium category. We have De Bruyne. Sterling is still 10 as well. We didn't even talk about Sterling moving to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be a tough one. I think for me, I tend to stick to the tried and tested usually in the beginning, and that's probably going to mean going for Salah and Kane, but we'll see. Uh,
Yeah.
it depends on fixtures as well. And speaking of fixtures, we can talk about the other teams as we go through the fixtures. But let's
Sure.
have a look at not that one. That's the wrong one. Ignore that.
Stop it, please.
Game weeks 1 to 5. Just this is
Yeah.
for everyone involved. And just before we continue, this is from the Fantasy Football Scout members areas fixture ticker, so you can see that there. If you want to sign up, go ahead. Um, I've sorted this by difficulty for the first 5 game weeks. So the team at the top
Understood.
has,
Yes.
yeah, the best games. So Arsenal, let's chat about them. Interested in them?
Well, from what I saw last season, after their dreadful first half or start, and then Arteta just brought them back from the dead. So from that perspective, I am liking their players. Saka, Jesus, even, maybe even Zinchenko, because I'm sure he'll be a starter and desperate probably to get some minutes. So definitely considering Arsenal, whether it's going to be in the midfield or forward range, I'm not too sure. Maybe even both, but we'll see.
Are you are you set on any of their players? Like, are they guaranteed to be in your team? And which ones?
I think Jesus definitely.
Okay.
Jesus and Saka, Odegaard, but preferably Saka. 'Cause I think maybe more minutes. Uh, Jesus, yeah, because I think he might be um like obviously the main guy after Lacazette left. But other than that, yeah, let's move on to City.
City,
Definitely Holland, yeah.
yeah, looking at those first few fixtures, excluding people have been mentioning that West Ham might be a tough game at first, which yes, it can be,
Yes.
but it's City. If they're in very good form, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, one game week, do you, exclude Holland and put in Kane? I mean, is there much difference? I don't know. Spurs at home, I don't know, maybe easier fixture than City away, but City on the day can score 4 or 5. It's a tough one.
For me, on the face of it, I think people are looking into West Ham's form under Moyes,
Yeah,
and I don't want to say over exaggerating it, but because they did very well with him. But he's the kind of manager that he does well over the season.
season.
So
Right.
I'm not saying it won't happen, but I'm not
Mm.
expecting him to set up a stalwart of a defense against City in
No,
game week one.
definitely not. Yeah,
So I would rather, looking at 5 games, it's West Ham, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, and Forest. And even if you were to go with Spurs instead, that would be Southampton, Chelsea, Wolves, Forest, West
yeah,
Ham. Similar, but they play Chelsea in
yeah,
game week 2.
yeah.
I would probably bank more on 2 City premiums and therefore probably bank on Haaland over Kane in game week
Okay.
1, I
I
think.
mean, rightly so, yeah, from that perspective.
Then again,
Yeah,
I would be quite happy to have. Kane in game week 1, and let's say a cheaper City midfielder. Oh, there's a question for you. Would you rather have Haaland and Son, or Kane and let's say Foden or Mahrez now that Sterling's left?
Interesting. I mean, it's hard to decide. Uh, I mean, same positions, same qualities. Uh, or would you go for a Holland Kulusevski or a Kane
Hmm.
and Foden? I
That's
mean,
probably a better comparison because it's cheaper.
yeah,
I would probably no. See, for me, if I were to do that, it would be Haaland and Son, and then
so,
I'd have to find the money elsewhere to make that happen. I don't.
yeah,
I didn't own Kulusevski last year, and that's probably why I didn't do well. But
yeah,
because he did very well, I kept Foden over that period of time, so didn't do too bad. But I lost out a lot on Kulusevski.
yeah. For me, last season I banked because of Bernardo Silva had like a good start of the season, and then I jumped on Silva. He did do well for me, and then during the latter half, didn't do much. So for me, I need that consistency. It's really hard
The
because
fear,
Kulusevski
go.
and now with Richarlison like in the same positions, who's going to get more minutes? Who's going to rotate? It's hard. Do you play them both? Will Richarlison play behind Kane and Son on the wing? It's tough.
I personally, I think that's probably why I wouldn't go Kulusevski. But I think, again, I got burned by City. I'm not City, by Spurs last year.
But
I
yeah,
went with Kane for most of the end of last season, and although he scored points, Son scored more. So I don't want to be thinking about that in my mind too much because it's a new season. But I'm scared of Son doing that again to me.
yeah. Speaking of Son, do you remember that game at home? I'm sure you do against Burnley when he just scored when he scored 5 goals when he just went rampant.
I do.
Uh, and I think I did have him captain, and then on the day before deadline, I swapped him for Kane, and I have regretted that decision until this day. And I think that's what broke my rankings. Because
Yes,
I mean, 50 points for one person. I mean, it's a massive climb.
it's the kind of thing that puts you on the back foot immediately.
Yeah,
I've got a frog in my throat. Excuse me.
happens.
Okay, let's talk about a team that we haven't mentioned at all, basically, and that would be my team. So Chelsea, they've got a pretty good start to the season. Everton, Spurs, Leeds, Leicester, Southampton. But from an FPL standpoint, I'm not that interested in them. Besides Reece James, basically, and
Yes,
Sterling.
for his attacking return. Yeah,
He's 10
I've
million.
also overlooked Chelsea players.
If I would go for someone, would be James. But if I wanted a set and forget kind of player in midfield, it's going to be Mount.
Mount, yeah.
Up front, we don't have a striker, so there's no option there. But then again,
Is
Sterling would be that, not wild card, but he's a good differential if you don't want to get Son or whoever else, basically.
yeah, Sterling's not a forward, right? If he's a midfield in
Yes, but I think
that,
that's the
yeah,
thing. He'll play in
you
FPL as a
play,
midfielder,
yeah, in the yeah.
like Havertz.
Hmm.
Intrigued by anyone?
If I was gonna look into Chelsea, obviously yes, Reese or Chilwell, barring injuries for both of them, but James definitely, and maybe Havertz if he fires from the start, if he's gonna be the starting forward with Sterling on the wing, maybe I'd consider Havertz.
I
But
mean,
at 8 million, I think he's the same as Jesus, so I'd rather stay with Jesus, who's probably definitely nailed on position.
agreed. Um, Looking at the other teams who I haven't paid much attention to this preseason. Teams who have good fixtures. Wolves, they have very good fixtures up front. I'm personally not. I haven't looked at them at all. So, are you considering them? Players like
Um,
Neto.
maybe Neto, yeah,
I'm assuming he's like 6 million again.
5.5,
Ooh,
which maybe for those fixtures, yes, but will he
yes.
perform on a consistent level? It's hard to say.
I mean,
Last season, nothing, no talk of Neto. Well, I think because he was injured, but still,
I think I would be okay with having a Neto in my team if he's 5.5 because that means I can afford, I can upgrade someone in defense with that extra point 0.5.
yeah,
And that's the difference between getting a Perisic and a James or a Perisic and a Chilwell kind of thing, right?
right, yeah.
Point 0.5 difference. Um, Looking at Aston Villa, have they signed anyone that you can think of?
Not that I know of. I can check quickly. But other than Coutinho or
Oh yeah, they signed Coutinho full time.
who is yeah, I have no idea who's in Villa's squad to be honest.
I'm
Uh,
guessing the only option would be Coutinho then, or someone like Watkins.
Watkins for me last season did have a good half of the season, good start,
I have,
and he was consistent.
yeah, that's the thing with Watkins. He's never a explosive player, but he scores points quite often.
Yeah.
But he also gets yellow carded often too. So
Yes, that's the downfall, unfortunately.
looking at Villa, they haven't signed any. Okay, a couple of random names that I don't know. Um, Quite a few random names I
Uh,
don't know. But they still have. I saw Ings was linked to someone else, so I'm assuming he's not going to be starting.
yeah, just looking at the team now, no standout players other than Coutinho, and maybe Luca Dean in defense for those attacking returns, but not really.
I'd agree. Anyway, looking at other teams, the only other teams that really stand out for me are, and I'm saying this more from a just intrigue standpoint, it's Newcastle because they haven't chucked a lot of money into their team yet. But I saw this week that they're linked with uh, Timo Werner from Chelsea, so that'd be
Oof,
random if they got him.
that would be interesting. I mean, considering they have no money and how Eddie Howe, how they finished, I think they finished top off end of last season,
Yeah,
so they did pretty well with no money at the club. So if Werner does end up going there, could be interesting
it's a
with
good team.
Wilson.
Yeah, with Wilson, Werner,
Barring injuries, I could consider Wilson for those early fixtures.
Saint Maximin, Bruno Guimaraes, Trippier. It's a good team.
Yeah,
If you ignore the City game, those first 4 games are good.
yeah. I mean, City and Liverpool. I mean, easy games. So Wilson maybe captain. Never know.
Definitely. Looking at the promoted clubs, are you interested in anyone from them?
Yes, let's talk about them.
Bournemouth have the worst games, so honestly, I'm not considering them.
Yeah, let's move along to
Forest,
Nottingham.
yeah.
They have done some good investments, I've got to say, with Henderson and my good friend Jesse Lingard. So,
Yes, those are two very good signings, and of course they've
he-
signed. Oh, they've got yeah, they signed Henderson and Hennessy
yeah,
as well. Um, are you expecting much from them this season? Do you think they're going to stay up, more or
I'm,
less?
I'm, I don't think they're going to be like another Brentford from last season with the Tony hype, but I think they could scare a few teams.
Yeah. And you mentioned Nico Williams joining them too, a good
Yes.
potential 4 million option.
Mm. I mean, it would bolster their defense, but I need to see. Hopefully, he does start, and then for that 4 million, definitely consider him for bench fodder.
Currently, he is owned by 27, no, 24% of players in FPL.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to you off air that I was going to mention it now that The issue with buying him, he's the most popular 4 million asset at the moment, but as soon as people see that he doesn't start in game week 1, they're going to be selling him.
Yeah.
And that means you're losing point 0.1 on a player
Point one. Yeah.
immediately. So unless you sell as well, then you're losing money, and we don't want that early in the season, I don't think.
Definitely not.
So I'd be hesitant to get him unless there's guaranteed that he's going to be in. If he's going to be playing, then I'm going to get him because then the opposite's going to happen. Then people are
Yeah.
going to buy him.
That's why I'm hoping that he starts because currently, as we'll see shortly in our drafts, I do have Williams, but obviously on the bench. So just hoping that he does start. Because I'm not sure they've had any preseason, so it's hard to say at this moment in time.
It's a toughie. We'll have to see. And
Um,
I'd consider people. Okay, I know we're talking about Forest, but looking at the other teams again, jumping all over the place. Brighton, who are always pretty good defensively, they always have the best defensive stats somehow.
they do indeed. Yeah, it is surprising.
They don't have a bad first 5 games, and I would definitely consider their defense usually, or goalkeeper, or 4.5 defender if I were.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just seeing that they're playing United first, so could jump on the defensive route of Sanchez and who's their premium defender?
Cucurella,
Cucurella.
if he doesn't go to City.
Yes.
Neil Mopay, hat trick at Old Trafford.
From what I've seen, anything's possible in the world of football, so can't rule it out.
It is.
Yeah. Shall
Alright.
we? Yeah, we haven't talked much about Fulham.
Fulham, where are they?
Also, yeah.
Yes.
'Cause I see they've signed Pereira
Yep.
from United, who
Oh,
could
yeah.
be the bargain of the season for them. Because he'll definitely be a starting number 10 for Fulham.
Yes, especially very good. I think he's 4.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's that fifth midfielder if you need it in your squad, and he's playing behind the prolific championship destroyer from last season, Mitrovic.
Yes. What a boy.
Do we think that Mitrovic can finally find form in the Premier League, or is it not going to happen?
I mean, he does tend to score goals like Ronaldo at a his later years. So maybe,
He has, but he's always been a championship bully as well. Kind of like
yeah,
the only person who's really made the jump since promotion has been Bamford with Leeds in his first year.
that is correct. Yes.
Everyone else, okay, no, no one else. Everyone else scored many goals in the championship, but then they would come up and then not do well. And the first person that comes to mind is Ebanks Blake at Stoke back in the day. He promoted them and then, eh.
Yeah,
So
prolific.
I would like to think that Mitrovic is an option, but with the current options that we have, and I think with the structure, we'll see. I think a popular structure is probably 4-4-2. It's not a four. It's not a 3-4-3 at the moment. I don't think.
No,
Um,
not with the current price increases. Not now.
so therefore, Mitrovic isn't at the top of my list. I would more than likely buy Pereira and then leave him on my bench and
Yeah.
hope for the best. Let's finally get into our drafts.
Oh,
Um, let's. I'm going to look at my 2 drafts first, just to give you an idea. My first,
typical host always wants to go first.
yes, I'm doing me first because my first draft is just my auto pick team. So the auto pick team on day one was a massive team. If I want to bench boost in game week 1, this is a very good bench boost. I have Allison, Stones, Thiago Silva, Alonso, Perisic, Bernardo, Rafinha, who got transferred, Zaha, Coutinho, DCL, Richarlison, captain, who's out of game week 1, Lloris on my bench, Matip, Grealish, and Vardy. It's a pretty good
Yeah.
auto pick team.
I mean, like you said, yeah, I'd bench switch from the start. I mean, you're likely to get more points than that starting 11, maybe.
That's a random. I mean, okay. Have you ever considered a bench boost in game week 1? Why not? Go go big full 15.
Yeah, rather be lucky than good, so do it.
Yeah.
Could prevail, if not, back of the line, kiddo.
Anyway, that's not
Yeah,
a real team. Anyway, so now let's move on to let's say your 2 teams, and these are proper drafts that you've actually thought about. So
yeah.
First one is your Kane draft. So just
the Kane draft.
tell us about your team quickly, from top to bottom.
So I've always wanted Kane throughout the season from the start. So even though he starts off very slowly, I mean that's a given. I think if you have him for the long term, it will it will be beneficial. Um, so for me, okay, so let's start from the defense or for goalkeeper. So Raya, I don't go more than the five to six keeper range. It's not really necessary.
Hmm.
4.5 for both rotating keepers for me.
Oh yeah, you've
Um,
gone for Raya and Henderson. Okay,
yeah, barring fixtures, obviously they will rotate.
sure.
Uh,
Defense.
defense, I think it's a pretty solid defensive lineup, barring Trippier. Yeah,
So you've
but
got
I do like the attacking the fullbacks.
who have you gone for in defense? Read them out so the
Yeah,
podcast can
I'm
go.
sorry, yes. So Trippier, Trent, Cancelo, and James. Obviously, attacking returns for all four of those defenders. To be honest, they are a threat. So
Hmm.
I am liking those wing backs.
It's probably not going to change, right?
No.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, midfield: Salah, Rashford, Diaz, and Neto.
Ooh,
So Salah captain, obviously, because he's a god. Mm,
against Fulham especially.
yeah. So I've doubled up on Fulham for those reasons. Goal, assist,
Hmm.
each other. And Rashford as that outsider pick for United.
He is a good one. I can't argue against it, to be honest, at
Yeah.
that price.
Neto, I really don't know why I went Neto. Probably just for team selection. I mean, if he does go well from the start, then maybe I would keep him. But
His
for in that price range, I don't know who else to go for.
his
Five and
first
a half, six.
his
There's
first few
no
pick
one.
fixtures are good though, so
Yeah,
it's a decent roll of the dice because there's many options around that price. You can always move
yeah,
away.
yeah. Okay, then forwards: Kane and Wilson. Kane obviously tried and tested throughout fantasy. Wilson, barring injuries, could get that attacking return and maybe be on set piece. Easy on penalties, I think. So yeah.
Bench.
Bench your Henderson, Pereira, Greenwood, and Neco Williams. Not expecting much from Greenwood, just for money in the bank. Uh, Pereira still need to see how he does. And Henderson obviously will rotate with Raya for those save points. And Nico Williams, um, new team, promoted team.
4 million defender.
I mean, could go worse. If he starts, I'll keep him. Just hope his price doesn't go down.
Okay.
So
Looking
that's
at
my Kane drop. Let's go to the next one.
I first want to ask you a few questions about this. So
Fine.
in the Kane drop, obviously the glaring omissions of Haaland, and that's the difference, right? So we'll
Yes.
get into Haaland shortly, so I won't ask you about that. Uh, you haven't gone for the likes of Son as well as Kane. So are you against the Son and Kane double up?
I'm not against it. It's just with Salah, can you have both? I mean,
Does this team have no
I
money
can
in the
play
bank?
around. It has maybe zero point 0.5.
Okay.
So if I do, oof, I mean, I could take Wilson out, Wilson and Diaz, and just have Kane up front with 4.5 forwards. Uh, Obviously, start like Undav was not really proven from Brighton, newly recruited, so we'll see how he does.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, with De Bruyne as well, the back of my mind,
It's another option. And
yeah,
you haven't gone for there's no City midfielder at all in this draft. So even
not at
though
all.
so that none of them are I
No,
don't I'm not what am I saying? This scares me because if I don't have Holland, then I at least want a City midfielder.
yeah, I know this team. Yeah, it's just this is just fully. for Kane purposes.
And there's no bench really.
No bench, no.
Like I mean, you have Pereira who plays, or you think he's going to
This
play.
uh, thinking I was definitely going to play. Yeah, this team is still under review
Definitely,
at the
they
moment.
all are.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
definitely a lot to think of. But okay, this is a decent structure at least, price point wise.
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to team two. This is the Haaland draft. Just read through the
Yeah.
team again.
Okay, so I've got Mendy. So I've gone past my philosophy of 4.5, yeah,
Okay.
goalkeepers, but it's a different look.
Yes.
So Mendy, Mings, Alexander, Diaz, and James. So just Mings and Diaz, the differentials there.
Hmm.
Um, De Bruyne, Saka, Diaz, and Bruno. Um, Bruno, oh, not Bruno. De Bruyne obviously will be my captain,
Wow.
probably the majority of the season. Um, you can't overlook De Bruyne. It's hard. Him, Salah, Son. Ideally, you'd want them all in the team, but unfortunately, you cannot. So you have to go either or. So the one's got Salah and this one's got De Bruyne. So that is my thinking. And Bruno, obviously, at that 6 million price range, he had a good like end to the season because I think they bought him late. So he did get the returns,
Hmm.
goals and assists in those minutes that he played. And then obviously Haaland and Jesus, both, yeah, going to new clubs, new structure. Probably I'm expecting a lot from Haaland because he's a brute with the ball. He's a bully. He scores goals, so he'll be a good fit. Jesus definitely in there now that he's in. I'm not going to say a better club, but a club that will put the focal point around Jesus.
Do you not? And then the bench is basically the same.
Yeah,
Gazaniga instead of Henderson.
yeah,
Um, okay. Thoughts or questions about this? Maybe because you're not looking at it from a different perspective. So I'll try and give you the different perspective.
yeah. There are lots of questions about this team, but yeah, go on.
Okay. The obvious difference here is there's no Salah.
No.
You have Diaz, and it's a hope, I guess. But
Mm.
not only that, but there's no Spurs either. So, do you not think that's too risky?
It is. I've
If you
just
got you
banked on going all City.
going all in on City and hoping that
Yeah,
Spurs
City and Arsenal.
and Salah don't
Mm.
do anything.
Yeah, both teams, I suppose, need
Tinkering.
a bit of a revamp. Yeah, rethinking.
You're not interested in this team, for example, or you're not more interested in Son instead of De Bruyne, and
I
then
could go
you have
that.
how much 2 million in the bank, or is it 1 million? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
they're both 12 million, I think, De Bruyne, and I think I may
Are
have
they the
1 million
same
in the bank.
price?
Yeah,
Wow, I did not. Shows how much I've played the game this year.
unless De Bruyne is 11 and a half, 11, but yeah, they are high.
Because as much as Triple City is interesting, I don't think the fact that you're not having Son or Kane, at least one of them,
Yeah,
it's worrisome. I think I would rather have Salah and Mahrez or Foden.
okay. Yeah. I mean, I can always take out Diaz. Diaz is 8. I'll have one in the bank, and then I could put in Son and then take out Jesus and put in like a 6 or 7, but that's not really ideal.
Many things to still consider, and thankfully this
Yeah,
weekend we'll get to see the Community Shield, so we can see exactly who's going to be starting, and hopefully Pep Roulette isn't as bad this season, although that's
yeah,
really wishful thinking.
yeah. You've seen my dismal draft. Let's see yours, Challen, please.
Let's have a look. I'll show
Your
you
main draft.
my second draft that I made literally
Yeah,
5 minutes before we started recording. So again, I haven't looked at any stats and stuff. This is based on free thought.
yeah.
I'll read it out to you. See, I think it might be a bit small on your side. For everyone else listening, I've got Raya in goal. My back line is it's a 4-4-2 formation. It has James, Trent, Cancelo, and Trippier in the back. So basically the same as your first draft's defense. I've got Neco Williams as well, which is weird because as I told you, I didn't pay attention to your team at all. So our back five is the same as draft one. Uh, in midfield, I have Salah, Martinelli, Bowen, and Bruno Guimaraes at the moment. And up front, I had Jesus and Haaland. On the bench, Hennessy, Andreas Pereira, Nico Williams, same bench as yours.
Yeah.
The thought here, off the top of my head, is I think this team has no money in the bank. So this would be me going with Martinelli because most people were going Saka, and I think Martinelli will start ahead of Smith Rowe again.
Yeah.
Bowen has good fixtures after game week 1. He does play at home against City, so that would be again slightly different. And Guimaraes is there because same reason basically. He's the talisman in the team. But
Yeah.
those three players can change. They're interchangeable with anyone else really.
Sure. And
And
also, this leads to me asking the question, why no Spurs?
uh, well, why no Spurs? Just because I couldn't afford them. But if if I want to keep the majority of this team, it would have to. Like, I don't know how I can get Salah, Howland, and Son in this team because then I have to downgrade. I could downgrade uh, Guimaraes to another 4.5, which is not
Mm,
ideal.
not the deal, no.
Or it would have to be James or Cancelo, and I don't like that either.
No.
And that means it has to be Jesus. FPL this year is not going to be easy,
No.
and it's going to swing a lot of swings back and forth. Anything else that stands out to you? Just looking at that.
Not really. I do like the structure. It's just those Spurs players. But yeah, Martinelli for me is a good option because I'm sure you'll get the minutes along with Odegaard and Saka. Uh, Bruno obviously, Salah. The defense, yeah, I can't go wrong with that defense.
On paper.
Attacking wise, or you could, yes, barring injuries. But yeah, Haaland and Jesus up front is that seems to be the trend for most fantasy teams.
I
Or
think,
Kane Jesus.
and yeah, I think that's the thing that's going to make or break. I think people at the start. We're all going to have
Yeah.
similar teams. Not everyone, but a lot of people. But those small decisions like Kane, Holland, or Son, no, not Son, Son De Bruyne,
Yeah.
or Foden, Mahrez, Foden, Diaz, those things that could change massively in the first few weeks.
I mean, have you ever thought about just dropping Haaland and Jesus and putting in maybe five forwards, just in the 5 million, three, and then you can afford Salah, De Bruyne, and Son. Maybe those three premiums with Diaz could make up for not having Haaland or Kane.
It's an,
It
inter-
is an option, but it's a very risky,
it's an interesting
non thought
question.
of option.
Someone like Jesus and Wilson maybe up front.
Mm.
Jesus, Wilson, Mitrovic up front, and then you go big in midfield.
Yeah,
I haven't looked into that. I think I will actually. But yeah, there's a lot to tinker here, and we will be tinkering more. Community
definitely,
Shield this
yes.
weekend, and we will definitely be. Oh, before I end, I actually want to show you the optimized squad. This is from FPLoptimized.com, showing you the optimized team for game week 1 based on data, expected data going forward. So this is what a model would choose for you if you were choosing the game week 1 team. So compare it to your team and let's see what it looks like. Currently, the optimized team has Mendy in goal,
Oh, okay.
and then a back five of James,
Wow.
Perisic, Cancelo, Trent, and Tomiyasu from Arsenal. Luis Diaz and Salah in midfield with Neto, and up front we have Jesus and Haaland. On the bench, Stefan, Demarai Gray from Everton, Andreas Pereira, and Taylor. I think that's from Forest.
Yeah. I mean,
So you can
not
see,
much difference. Yeah.
you can see the similarities there.
Yeah.
A bit of a similarity in if you were to combine your two drafts,
Right.
the defense, and then there's Mendy and Neto. So maybe try and find a way to get both in. Or I mean combining your two drafts. But again, what stands out here for me is once again no attacking Spurs.
Okay. Yeah, just hoping that Perisic, yeah, it's not at rotating risk.
Mm, I think you will be.
Mm.
And this team is expected to score 58 points in game week one, which is a good average score.
Yeah, it's a good return. Yeah.
At least this shows that our teams that we've chosen more or less are in line with what
Nine.
is
Yeah.
expected to do well. Which
So we're on the same,
yeah,
wavelength.
we're on par with what computers think are
Yeah.
going to do well. That's a good
I don't
thing.
even know De Bruyne or Son in the automated team. It is weird not seeing those players. Or Kane.
It's weird. I think maybe a change. I'm not sure exactly when this was
Yeah.
done, but maybe a change is based on preseason games. So
Mm.
I'll have a look again next week if there's another one, and then see what we have, and we can discuss it then.
All right.
Anyway, it was nice to chat to you, and we're just about to finish in just under an hour. Perfect timing. Uh,
Yeah.
any closing thoughts?
Not really. I just want to go have lunch, if you don't mind. So,
Yes, we'll be having lunch shortly. I am hungry
yes.
too. Before we go, I forgot to do this. Social media plugs. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on social media at Fan Challenge on Twitter and Instagram. Like, subscribe, and watch us on YouTube at Fantasy Challenged, one word. You can listen to us podcasting wise on all platforms, wherever you listen to your podcasts: Apple, Google, Spotify, all of them. Just type in the name, you'll find us. And Alex is on Instagram at what are you?
Alexi underscore Bruce.
Okay, Alexi underscore buffs. I am at Chaz Button, and it was nice to see you. Goodbye, Alex. I'll see you next week. Good. Goodbye.